EJ Williams, thanks for joining me today for this Black History Month session. Um, we're exploring over the course of October different Black heroes who have impacted British history. And so I'm keen to start off by asking, do you think it's important for workplaces to celebrate or mark Black History Month?
I might be about to be a little bit annoying because I'm going to sit on the fence on this. No, and what I mean by that is I have a degree of ambivalence. I and my ambivalence is I think it can be hugely beneficial. I'm really aware that if I think back to kind of the context that I grew up in terms of seeing people who look like me doing stuff, she says very eloquently, outside of sports, if you were black, you could definitely be sports person and a little bit of music, but not classical music, obviously. Like, that was very restricted. It was kind of like, I don't know, not classical music. So as somebody who was quite sporty, but also very musical and classically trained, I didn't see many people looking like me. And so for us to see and celebrate people who look like other black and brown people, I think can only be a good thing. What that engenders for young people and young adults, I think cannot be underestimated. My ambivalence is more around organizations who do it because they think they should, where organizational leads haven't really done their own work as to why is this important for you as the managing director or owner or senior manager in this organization. Why are you doing this? What's your skin in the game? And if you can't, as an organizational lead, answer that, then I can smell that at 50 paces, and I'll bet you a bag of Haribos, which in my world way more valuable than money, that your that your teams know that. We can spot inauthenticity and a lack of sincerity, and I'm doing this because I should. We can smell that at 50 paces. And so that's my ambivalence, not because I fundamentally think it's a bad thing. I actually think we should be celebrating our history and our British history, and we need to know our history. And it's not the domain of exclusive it's not the exclusive domain of white people. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's way more colourful and nuanced and complex than, a lot of what I was taught, and I studied history. And so I think this Black History Month is really helpful in that. But I want business owners and people managers to do their work. And if you can't say as a business leader or owner, why this is important for you, then you really need to be thinking carefully as to why why you want to celebrate Black History Month.
Mm.
That's my
Brilliant.
yeah.
Yeah, great point. Absolutely great point. So the topic or the theme of Black History Month this year is standing firm in power and pride. And for me, the word pride has always been associated with the LGBTQ plus community. And interestingly, we have both picked our heroes from that community as well this week. So tell me, who is your hero for Black British history?
Okay, so my hero, is Audre Lorde.
Mhm.
She was, because she has died, an American writer, professor, feminist, poet, and civil rights activist. And she was born in the 1930s, about a decade before my dad, and died in 1992. So when I was doing my GCSEs, if you want a frame of reference, also about a decade before my dad. And her dad was from Barbados, which is where my parents are both from, and her mum was from Grenada. So that there's a Caribbean link there, and she really hung out in the space of intersectionality So and her kind of, what she was focused on was race, class, age, ageism, sex, sexuality, and latterly, because she was diagnosed with breast cancer, I think it was, kind of chronic illness and disability. So much of her writing kind of is focused on those kinds of all of those kinds of areas. And I suppose for me, she's part of what strikes me about her, bearing in mind, she was born in 1934, as a Black feminist lesbian writer in America. Like, it blows my mind what she would have had to have navigated, and how she navigated that, and how she then showed up in her world. And I don't want to paint a picture of being an Audre Lorde expert, because I have come to her relatively recently. But I think for me, and part of why I chose her for my hero for Black History Month, is that she has been one of those lights for me, in terms of, do you ever have people who say stuff and you're like, yes, that is the thing I have been trying to articulate for myself, but it's just been, even if I've had words, which oftentimes I haven't, like, it's just been a word soup. It's lacked clarity. I haven't been able to express myself. And I have been reading some of her articles, and I've just been like, the book is scrawled all over with highlighter and pencil, because she's saying so much of what I am thinking about. And do I have time to read just a little bit?
Yeah, we'd love you to. Yeah.
So this is from a book my friend has given me, and the book itself is a collection of her poetry and essays and articles. And she's talking about it's titled "Your Silence Will Not Protect You," and she's quoting a conversation she had with her daughter, as she was about to, I think, give a speech somewhere, and the daughter says, tell them about how you're never really a whole person if you remain silent, because there's always that one little piece inside you that wants to be spoken out, and if you keep ignoring it, it gets madder and madder and hotter and hotter, and if you don't speak it out one day, it will just up and punch you in the mouth from the inside. And I love that picture. I love that metaphor, because as a woman, as a Black woman, who's also a business owner, who's worked in corporate, who now runs her own psychotherapy practice, there's so much that requires me, or wants to make me small, and to fit me into a box, and that requires me to conform. And her words are really propelling me to really push against that. Now, there's a context with that. I'm reading her words at a particular time for me in my life, but as with most of us, the pressure to fit in and the pressure to conform is a reality. And in many ways, my life would be easier. It might be safer, and I mean that in terms of my physical safety, and I mean that in terms of my emotional safety. Like, on every level, I mean that, because as a Black woman in 2025, I have to think of my physical safety. And it'd be much easier if I was willing to kind of hang out in the corners and be small and quiet and ladylike, and all of those things that we get told that we're supposed to be. Turns out I don't really want to do that. And it's nice to know that there have been women before me who have gone, do you know what? Nah, not doing that. And that or they help me to be courageous. and Audre Lorde had the audacity to not be small.
Amazing. I will allow you to have broken the rules for Strictly Speaking British on this one, because I think you're right. I think if somebody's writing impacts people so profoundly, it has influence wherever it's read and all across the globe. And if that alters a mindset, a feeling, a call to action, if you like, for people, then that's happening. You know, you're British, you're in Britain, it's happening for you. So I'll allow it.
if it helps, the book is prefaced by Reme Edo-Lodge, and she's British. So
yes,
we're good. We're good. I'm sure we're good.
Okay, that's that. But yeah, we'll let you have that one. So amazing. So my hero this week, also again, strictly speaking, is from Trinidad and Tobago. His name is Jason Jones. He was born in 1964. And as I said, the theme of Black History Month being standing firm in power and pride, really just the pride makes me think of LGBTQ plus community. And he was gay, and at the time he was born, it was illegal to be gay in Trinidad and Tobago. Old Commonwealth colonial legislation still was in force in that part of the world, and he was outed at 19 and exiled to the UK. So he lived here from 1985. And really, ever since he arrived here, he was campaigning. He was a defender of human rights, and was particularly active in the LGBTQ plus community. So he campaigned against Section 28. In the 90s, he went on to be on the board of the Stonewall Immigration Group. And also successfully lobbied the UK government for immigration rights for same-sex partners. So he was really fundamental in changing legislation in the UK for the LGBTQ plus community. But I think as a Black man to be doing that,
it's huge.
It sends a huge message. And again, where you were saying you were looking for examples of who looks like me, who is a Black woman playing classical music, at that point in time, to have a Black man in such a public capacity, being openly proud of his sexual orientation in communities that aren't always as supportive. He's also then gone on to fight the discriminatory laws in Trinidad and Tobago, so that they are in the process of being overturned. There's legal appeals and things going backwards and forwards, but it's anticipated that the campaign will be successful. And it will also impact the laws in 10 other ex-Commonwealth countries. So it's massive. It's huge. It's kind of global reach. So Jason Jones gets my vote this week. So that's great. EJ, thanks so much. As always, I love speaking to you and spending time with you. So it's wonderful to have spoken and learn more about your hero, and look forward to seeing you soon.
My pleasure, and thanks ever so much for asking me. It's been an absolute delight.
Pleasure.